But our main topic today is the NAB and getting ready for the NAB. I could do a poll right now and ask how many of you are going to go, but I think the answer is a relatively small number compared to previous years. And if you look at the number of companies that are showing at NAB, especially in the radio sphere, it is not as many as you might expect. It's going to be a video oriented and an AI oriented show. And as a result, I think radio is, I don't know, being pushed into the corner of the West Hall. Uh, it's certainly not in the center of things, although there are a few of our companies that we know of that are in the Central Hall and will be there as well. So a lot of good stuff to come. Jeff, what is the number one thing that you think about when you are going to go to NAB? And don't tell me a groan.
Sore feet. It's almost a
Exactly.
groan. Yeah, no. That show, whether you're exhibiting or attending, is a massive amount of time on your feet, either on uncushioned carpet in the hallways or overly cushioned carpet in the booths, and everything from the knees down is going to hurt. So if you don't have really, really good shoes, and so John Bissett always is sworn by Florsheim's. Me, I like Saucony running shoes. That's pretty much my go-to all year round. But yeah, don't ever. We had one girl one year bought a pair of new shoes the week before NAB and broke them in on the show floor, and
Whoops.
highly not recommended.
No.
So yeah, I'd say two things: that, and no matter how much water you drink, it's not going to be enough.
It is a dry area out here. There's no question about it.
It's like I said when you emailed me. It's like I said, yeah. For those of us who come from areas where you need two digits to measure the relative humidity in the air, it's kind of surprising how fast it sucks the moisture out of your body.
It does. It does. So those are two good, very good pointers. The next thing I'd like to uh, ask you, and that's getting around.
Yeah, and I mean for us, we'll typically, I mean Wilson can verify, but we typically rent only two or three vehicles for the whole crowd. But we also tend to stay off strip too, which is, there's opinions in both directions on that. So we'll do a lot of shuttling around that way. If you can get a hotel like the Flamingo or something on the strip, and monorail is pretty good. You can buy the passes online. Do understand that it will be mobbed, and trying to get in at either Flamingo Station or the Convention Center Station is a pain in the ass. So your trick at the end of the day is walk through the pedway to the LVH or Westgate, whatever they call it this year, and it'll be the Hilton forever for me. But you walk through the pedway to the Westgate and get on the monorail there, and that way you're already ahead of the crowd, especially if you're on one of the last stops getting off.
That's a very good point because that is the second stop. The first one is up by the Sahara, and as
That's a long walk.
that's a well, it's a long walk, but I used to have one of my favorite places, and George Riggins, the late George Riggins from BE and other companies, taught me about the El Mirador, and it was just a great little 50s style motel at the top of the strip. You park right next to your door, and it cost me about 150 or $200 for the week. And, it was nothing special, but I'd have to walk through all the gambling machines and deal with elevators and other stuff. It was very nice. It's flat now. It's
Yeah.
gone, and that's unfortunate. So, have to go elsewhere.
Yeah. And the other thing is weather, because like right now, and Tim had mentioned that he had to slog through 12 inches of snow to get here in northern Maine, and they're cheerfully sending all their crap up to us right now. So we're under special weather statement for the next 3 days with 8 to 10 inches of snow in the forecast. Forecast for next week in Vegas is 70s to 90s.
Yep.
So yeah, if you have like me, where the hair is moving back in front and thinning in the back, having a hat if you're going to be outside any length of time is a good idea. And again, something that I don't tend to think about too much in April in Eastern Canada.
Well, you don't have the tornadoes that they had. Was it Charleston where the two towers came down?
Yeah, yeah. Charleston
West
is
Virginia.
in that neck of the woods. It was
Yeah.
West Virginia for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was Charleston,
yeah.
Uh,
West Virginia radio.
mhm.
Two
W-
400-foot towers.
WCHS. That's
Yeah.
that's unfortunate for them. And what can you say?
Yeah, I mean it's part of what the weather is. Knock on wood, here in the northeast corner, we just get blizzards and the occasional heavy rain. We don't get a whole lot of, we don't get circular winds like that, and that's one thing that I'm really thankful for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, just the next thing to do, you get yourself some comfy shoes, find a decent place to stay. If you haven't made your reservations, you're going to find they're a little bit on the pricey side unless you get off strip, as Jeff mentioned. Although there are a couple of places available if you search hard enough. The big issue would be getting to and from the convention center. Um, we could talk about the monorail, as Jeff did. You can get a pass for, was it about $35 for 4 days, something like that.
Yeah, they're not bad, and I mean they're unlimited use, so that's pretty cool.
As long as you don't go at 5 o'clock to the station by South Hall. It just
Right.
don't do that.
And I mean, there's the other thing you just brought it up, and it's a really good point. Is if you haven't booked a hotel for Vegas by now, then you're going to be very limited in your options. I know with APRE, with the PREC being at the Tuscany again, the Tuscany is sold out for part of the NAB week already. You can't get a room at all. There are lots of others, like we're way up Tropicana on the Orleans side. Yeah. And we got a good rate there, but we booked that several months ago. Um, yeah, the prices are going holy smokes through the roof. I mean, I'm seeing two, three, $400 a night for hotels I'm used to seeing in the double digits.
Hmm. And then there's the resort fees and the parking fees and the fees.
Yeah. Oh, look, at the Orleans, the resort fee is higher than the rate we're paying for the room.
Is it?
Yeah. So just as one example, I mean, I think we got the rooms for 65 Canadian a night. So, 40 something US, and the resort fee is somewhere between 45 and 50. It's nuts.
Well, that's kind of what I found. I ended up, of all places, at Circus Circus. Okay, release your groans. It's not exactly top of the mark, but it's real close to the West Hall.
It's like I tell people, I say, you're going to spend 6 to 8 hours a night or a day in that hotel room at max. I mean, and most of that time you're going to be unconscious. So as long as it doesn't have bugs and it's convenient, the
Yeah.
rest is relatively irrelevant.
But at least there was free parking, and the resort fee was almost as much as the room rate, but not entirely. So,
Yeah.
it's okay. There are other places you can go out to Boulder Highway. I mean, if you have a car or you rent a car or something like that. But the
Yeah.
idea is not to waste your whole day getting to and from.
Right. And I mean, the great thing is once you get off strip, traffic in Vegas, even during rush hours, is pretty fast moving. It's not as bad as I would expect. I mean, there are a few thoroughfares that really get jammed, but you can learn to work around those pretty quick with a little bit of Googling ahead of time.
Yeah.
Brian mentions using the bus system, and I've not used it before, but yeah, they do have a pretty good bus system there as well.
Very good. Very
And
good.
just Roland suggested using complimentary scooters, so yeah, that'd be a cool idea. Mary, you guys, Broadcast Depot should sponsor scooters, but they do have scooter rentals available in the halls, and yeah, that's something that you could possibly. I'm thinking it'd be a good little sales gig for somebody who has products that cross halls.
Hmm. Very true. Very true. Now, one of the other things that we come up to when we go to these shows, why are you there? Are you there for the floor? Are you there for the sessions? Now, here's the thing. What can you do on the floor that you really can benefit from? Anyone?
I mean, I already know where I'm going with that.
Yeah,
You can network.
Yes.
Yeah, it's nice
exactly.
to meet people, see them face to face that help you out all the time.
Exactly right. And I have found over the years that my most profitable time on the floor outweighs everything in the sessions. And some of them are good sessions. Hey, you know, uh, the, the show with, in the antenna rooms there, you know, Bob Surrett and, ERI's, Silliman. That was really something. The Ben and, uh, uh, Ben Dawson and Ron show on antennas.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go wrong in those. On the other hand, the second year I went to NAB, there was a session which I went to. I don't know why. Had to do with I tried to make as many of the sessions as I could, and it had to do with a NPR station building a studio. And as the discussion unfolded, the speaker mentioned that his budget was $7 million. Now, I was in the process of building a 6-tower DA and new studios for a station here in Tucson, and I was not going to go anywhere near $7 million. You could lop a zero off, and it was still more than I was going to get to spend or have to spend. And so I found that my time on the floor, getting to know the folks at that time, at the transmitter companies, at the company where the cart machines that we installed came from, that proved to be very profitable because whenever I needed an issue or had an issue, I had somebody to call who would take care of it quickly. If you come and meet Mary at the broadcast depot section, you're going to make a friend that when you have a problem, she'll help you. If you come and meet Jeff Welton, believe it or not, he's easy to get along with
Some days.
some days. And there are other guys there in the booth too that and there, you know, we could go down the list of the different companies that show or will show there. And that is the place to shake hands, get to know somebody, and ask your questions.
Yeah.
Now, there's another aspect to that too, in that you can feel the equipment. You can press the buttons if it's not plugged, or you can see how the faders feel. You can ask a question about how this comes together. And that's really hard to do on a program like this, let's say.
Mm-hmm. Now, I will throw in the caveat, and that's where downloading the NAB app ahead of time and sort of doing some route planning is critical, because you got like roadies typically in the South Hall, BDS, and I think Broadcast Depot are usually central or north. A lot of us, the transmitter, some of the hardware folks are in the West Hall. And it's not a couple of 100 feet from the South Hall to the West Hall. It's more like a mile and a half. And that's a guess. Elaine can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I'm in the ballpark. It's a long
No, it
haul.
only feels like 10 miles, Jeff.
Yeah. And I mean, now the cool thing is they've got the Teslas running in the loop underground. And I mean, depending on the lineups, those are kind of fun just to experience. But walking versus standing in line, going outside, standing in line, taking the Tesla, getting the other end, it's about the same length of time. So a lot of that comes back to how we started this conversation. How sore are your feet at the moment, whether you walk or whether you sit down and let somebody drive you?
Well, that's true. Roland makes the very good point. In now, Jeff wins this one, no matter how you look at it. He says, I'm there for the actual demo on new equipment, talk to engineers behind the products, not just the sales guys.
Yeah,
Well,
that's right. No, and I mean, like for us, we've got this year, Philip, our CTO, is going. He's the guy behind the GV2 and a lot of the HD stuff we've done over the years. I've also got him booked for some single frequency network discussions. We've got Nelson and Adam and John, our head of support, all going from the support team. We've got some other guys from engineering. I don't remember who because those engineers, they stay in their corner. But
Justin Jameson will be there. So will Alex
there you
Morales
go.
from the power side.
See, so there's always somebody paying attention to who's going, not me. But yeah, and I mean, Justin is the design team lead behind the VX series. Alex does a lot of our AM stuff as well as, like you said, the high power stuff. So it's yeah. The good thing for us as salespeople is when somebody like Roland comes by, I can hand them over to somebody that knows what they're talking about and walk away.
hey, Lane sent me a nice picture this morning about the
Uh-oh.
new VX.
Yeah, no, we by NAB time should be approaching. I'm going to pull a marketing job here because they brought this up and I said, yeah, that's not really true, but we'll be approaching 1,000 VX transmitters in the field in the past year.
Well,
So
that's pretty good.
they've been moving. Wilson smirking because he heard me cussing John out for even trying to suggest that in a meeting yesterday or 2 days ago.
What else
But
do you have new this year, Jeff, that you can talk about?
not a whole lot new. And this is something you and I discussed earlier. It's a lot more of solidifying and seeing things actually starting to happen that we've either been showing before or promising for a while. I mean, this year, we're going to put John White on public notice right now. So if you see him at the show floor, say, hey, Jeff said, but this year, for the first time ever, there's a very good chance somebody will have some solid state drives with the new AUI for GV, some GV transmitters on them, but at least it's a start. For the first time, I can actually say that I see forward motion, and that's cool.
Wow, you
Uh,
actually said that before John did.
Yeah, that's only because he's not signed into this meeting.
Now, does that pair with the new AUI?
Yes, no, that's the whole point of it is the new AUI. That is not, I mean, it's and with the GV it kind of went together. The GV2, the new GV series or the upgraded GV series with the HD improvements required the new AUI to happen. So that kind of pushed that development a whole lot faster than and I'm going to say it at the expense of some of the other stuff. And that's part of what's been so frustrating for the frontline team is because we know y'all are just seeing nothing coming out. And meanwhile, we're watching the engineering team get shoved from this priority to that priority and back to this one. And it's like, good God, just sit down and let them finish a project. So anyway, we're starting to see some motion there and it's looking good. VS, I'm not going to say that it absolutely. I don't think you're going to see VS new AUI at NAB. Will you see it this year? Maybe. Beyond that, I'm not going to, like I said, maybe it's my answer for everything related to AUI now until I physically hold it in my hands. As
Okay.
much as you can hold software in your hands.
Yeah. Well, I keep hoping to see it. The software that I've heard of and have seen does lock up a bunch, and the legacy app just it's not quite there.
It's better than nothing, but yeah, it's not ideal.
There you
Having with the legacy app, I mean, I run my station. I've got a VX 1.5 and a VS1, both. And what we do, we've put we run dark fiber from site to studio. So we've got a laptop at the studio that's dedicated for site access. And we just log into that via VPN and, I can, or VNC rather, so I can get in with with real VNC and open a browser if I'm going to the VX or open the app if I'm going to the VS.
Isn't that an oxymoron, using dark fiber?
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. So it is a fiber connection, but it's a dedicated fiber and it's not got a whole lot of people on it, which is a good thing.
Okay. Well, let's
Especially when we're accessing with VNC and not a VPN, but that's a whole different IT security discussion.
let's wander just a little bit here. If you leave the Nortel booth, if they'll let you off your leash for a few minutes, where on the floor do you want to go? What do you want to see this year?
I will probably, I mean, if I can get over to Central and South to see some of the AI demos, I'm cautious. So I told somebody I'm cautiously pessimistic about AI. I think that as it develops, especially over the next couple of years, the first thing we're going to do is, as humankind, is screw it up royally, and make it so that it gives you a whole lot of misinformation. I know just with the little bit I've used it for, like logging meetings and stuff, what it gets wrong exceeds what it gets right sometimes.
I'm sorry,
And
Dave, I can't turn that transmitter back on.
like that. So I think we're going to see a lot more of it, but I think that people need to be very, very cautious about double checking and fact checking and proofreading. And unfortunately, I think that's the thing that historically we're not really good at. So, like I said, cautiously pessimistic. That's my answer. There you go, artificial stupidity. Well, the problem is we shouldn't be working on artificial intelligence when there's already so much natural stupidity that needs to be corrected. But that's a whole different discussion. Jerry sent me a direct message, and I'm going to make it. I'm going to throw it out in public anyway. He's being tactful, and I'm not. But back to the AUI, he asked if there was any hope for the NV, and the short answer is yes. But if you ask me when, my answer is going to be hopefully before I retire. I won't get any, I'm not even going to try and nail it down more than that. I haven't got a guess. It will obviously be the last thing on the list, but it is absolutely on the list.
Will you be hanging around the broadcast electronic LNOS booth or the Gates Air booth?
They're all right in our neighborhood. I mean, hang around. No, I mean, I've got friends in both booths, so I'll stop over to say hi, sure. But I mean, it's one of those things that I'm wearing an Autel shirt. For me to be standing in a Gates Air booth is just going to make them and customers uncomfortable. So I don't see the point. That's just not cool. You know,
All right.
but no, I'll swing by long
Fair
enough to
enough.
say hey to Mark and Paul and them and Joe over at BE.
Well, that's usually now for Thursday afternoon, which is now Wednesday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
That's when the vendors all
Well,
wander.
you know, the past several years, that hasn't really been the case. I mean, we've been talking to people pretty much up to the closing day, closing minutes. You know, I mean, there'll be little lulls on Thursday afternoon and Wednesday morning where you can go visit somebody, but now it's been relatively steady all the way through. So that part's been kind of cool
What do you
from a vendor
attribute that to?
perspective. What's that?
What do you attribute that to?
Oh, because we're that awesome. No, I don't know. I think it's probably got more to do with the it is because it is shorter time that folks are spent, you know, and the way it's laid out, I think a lot of people are visiting the West Hall last because the South Hall and the North Hall are very, very time intense. Just there's a lot of stuff to see and do there.
Well, there is
Whereas
no
the
North Hall.
sorry, what's that?
There is no North Hall this year.
Isn't there? Oh, there's South and Central.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I mean, there's a lot more to do there and see there, and so the West Hall is where they tend to go on the last day. I don't know. A lot of it, the way it just worked out, is the way people set their schedules.
So it's interesting. Microsoft is back and they're in the South Hall,
Mm-hmm.
but,
That's where you'd expect them to be.
but not so much broadcast in the South Hall.
I mean, as far as putting a signal up a stick, no. As far as content creation, which is basically what broadcast is, then yeah, there's some
Mhm.
stuff there. I mean, I think that's going to be more video centric there, and you'll get into Mary. Are you guys in Central this year, or are you in South or West? You're in West.
We're in West Hall.
Yay!
Yeah, we were in West Hall last year.
Okay, well, I didn't get to see you last year. You weren't one of our reps then.
And
I
it's
mean,
interesting that Broadcast Depot and Broadcast General Store will be in the hall, but SCMS and, to my understanding, RF Specialties will not be showing. BSW will not be showing in a booth.
Right.
BSW and SCMS hasn't had a booth for years.
No.
I can remember when BSW used to have a booth. I can't ever remember SCMS having a booth of their own. Now, last year, I think they were with Aqua.
Yeah, I believe so. And I mean, before
So
that,
they may be again this year with Aqua.
right.
And RF Specialties is going to be in the West Hall.
Is it?
Yeah. The guys from RF Specialties of California are anchoring that.
Okay. Well, then I'll have to look up that number and make sure I stop by there.
Yep. And I mean, a lot of times too, a lot of the resellers like SCMS and BSW will pick a couple of vendors, or they'll put some people at this one, some people at that one. And it
Yeah.
works the other direction. Like I noticed Bob Tarcio and Broadcast Devices, they're usually at the BGS booth. And so, there a lot of these relationships sort of evolve over the years. I mean, we'll have different folks in our booth off and on through the entire show. So definitely, if there's somebody you want to see, you're best off reaching out to them. I know I get 2 or 3 emails an hour, feels like now, but it's been building obviously as the show gets closer. But just people asking, "Hey, when's free for you?" And so we all run, like, we've got a planning spreadsheet. So I can go in and tell you, when I've got a meeting, when Jeff Wilson's got a meeting, when whatever is going on. Now, that does assume that me or Wilson, either one of us, are actually updating the planner on a regular basis. But I see that he's already highlighting our boss onto some stuff. So yeah.
All right.
But that's what I come back to with the app. I mean, the planning and the communication, especially if you've got projects in the go, there is a massive amount of time there's a massive amount of stuff to do and see, and a very finite amount of time to do it in. So you definitely want to set appointments or just confirm who's going to be where as much as you can. And I can tell you from our planner, for example, that Elaine's going to be at dinner on the 14th at 7:30 p.m. I don't know where. John didn't fill that information in, but he did put down that that's where he'll be. So that, again, just planning and visibility as much as you possibly can. It's not a show that you just walk into blind and walk around and expect to see everything you wanted to do.
Well, I'd like to suggest maybe some of the folks would like to contribute a thought or two. My thought at this point is that it's important to write down your questions before you get there. Now, it won't be everything you want to know, because you'll find out that, I forgot to ask about this, or I forgot to note that. But if you can come up with the key questions about the equipment that you're looking for instance, just as a quick example, will this transmitter run HD? Some will and some won't.
Yep.
And so if you're looking in a certain price range, if you're looking in a certain model range, you want to be sure of what you're looking for. And then if you tell Jeff, I don't need HD, he'll move you over to the left side there. You say, I do need HD, he'll sell you a big GV.
Well, and that comes back to, and if you do need HD, I'm going to ask questions related to time frame and what your goals are, because it may or may not be a GV2 versus a traditional GV. But the point I'm making too with that, and that's a really good point, and how you take the notes is up to you, whether you record them in your phone, whether you work with a notepad. I mean, I've still got a notepad that I picked up at one of the BDR lunches. Well, I've got probably 400 notepads around here in various places, but wife laughs. I've got notepads everywhere and never remember to look at them. But the other thing that a lot of my customers will do is email me a list of their questions ahead of time when they're booking the appointment. And then I've got something that I can refer to because I'll set a meeting reminder and put that email in the meeting reminder. So, then I've got a point note and point by point. And then as they're asking questions, it'll be like, oh, yeah, you'd also mentioned you wanted to talk about this. So, yeah, again, communication is key.
Yeah, I usually carry one of my, well, it's not going to work, is it? Yeah, there you are. That little
Mhm.
notepad, and you can set it up ahead of time. Of course, you're going to run into things that you didn't know that they existed
Yep.
until you get there, but that's fine. But to have a plan of the key things you're looking for, transmitters, audio consoles, audio processors. So, anyone want to comment on that? What you may be looking for, and maybe it is at NAB, or maybe you're waiting to hear about NAB. Because as I wander through, I'm going to try and take some pictures and share them with everybody. And so you need to tell me what you want to see. Nobody wants to see anything.
Well, and I mean, I'll give you one example. The one question, and Wilson can yay or nay this all he wants to, but the one thing I think we hear the most is, do you have any show floor specials that we need to know about? And I mean, unless we're running a promotion for something, which typically we don't tie to the NAB show anyway, we'll just pick a start date and an end date, whatever they may be. As a rule, if anybody tells you they're running a show floor special, all they're doing is giving you the discount they could have given you at any other point in the year. So a lot of it just comes back to finding somebody you trust and working out what you need and getting the best price you can get for it. But I don't think, and I'm not saying nobody ever does show floor specials. I'm sure some do, but for the most part, if you came to me 2 months before NAB, and I knew we were going to do something at NAB and you can't make it there, then I'm going to give you that something anyway, if I've got the ability to do it at all.
And what kind of
That's more
swag are you
true for
giving
your
out of your booth?
product.
Sorry, go ahead, Mary. And
That's more true for your product because I know, like on the studio side, a lot of the manufacturers will do NAB specials, which means our cost is less. So it's actually a true special. So
cool. And there was
just-
another question I heard coming in.
What kind of swag are you giving out at your booth?
$1 billion question. I mean, and they surprise us with this every year too. But typically ball caps, mouse pads. Mouse pads have been our new big thing. So we've got these all over the place. And
Slight detour.
yeah, no,
uh,
swag's important.
Thinking about what you're showing
There,
and
yeah.
how you're showing it. I think one of the questions that would come up is delivery time. And while this is not just specifically NAB oriented, but you give 30 seconds on how your delivery time is.
Sure. I mean, these days it's pretty much, with a few exceptions, it's pretty much back to pre-COVID levels. The big boxes, the 3.5 to 40 kilowatts are bigger. Well, once you get 60 and 80s, it's a little longer, but 3.5 to 40 kilowatts, ballpark 8 weeks from order to shipping. The VX, typically, if you called me with a 2 kilowatt or less and you had an emergency, I could probably get it out in a week or two. If it's not an emergency, I'm going to ask for 4 or 5 weeks just because, and we've always had this for all the time I've been involved in manufacturing, but we got a bunch of inductors in last month where they didn't meet our spec. And so the vendor had to make good and replace that entire shipment. Well, that slows us down a bit for that product. So like the VX right now, I'm going to ask for 4 to 6 weeks instead of the usual 1 or 2. AMs, typically those ones, because the transformers are ordered as needed, just because they're big, they're heavy, and they take up a lot of expensive space on the floor. We typically ask for 16 or so weeks on those. So again, it'll vary by product, but lead time wise, we're pretty much to where I'd like to be on everything. I'd like to see the low power AMs, the J1000s, get a little shorter. They're at about 6 to 8 right now, and it used to be we were at 2 to 3 on those. So that's once Bangor gets caught up with some of their navigational backlog, then we should see that come down a little.
What would cause somebody to choose between a J and a VS?
One's AM, one's FM.
Ah, that works.
Since you asked, yeah,
But we call that up and down or side to side.
yeah, yeah. But no, like VS to VX, for example, would be a better example because they're both low power FM.
That's what I meant to say.
Yeah, the VX does not do and has no plans, at least at the moment, for an HD upgrade path, whereas the VS does. If you wanted to do a HD single frequency network, it would have to be a VS. If you wanted to do an analog single frequency network, I would probably go with VS for that, just because the exciter characteristics are more known, just because it's a more established product. Other than that, translators, any low power LPFM stuff like that, if there's no HD requirement or plans for it, I'd go VX all the way every day. It's more features, a little more rugged, the hair more efficient, although at a kilowatt, the difference between 75% and 70% is not even an LED light bulb. So, it's pretty insignificant, but it's still a difference. Trying to think now beyond that. I mean, anything that basically, and this comes back to the drum I beat all the time, is work with your sales manager, whoever he may be, and again, whatever company you're dealing with, and find one that isn't just trying to shove something down your throat, but is asking the questions to find out what your plans and goals are.
Sure.
You
I
know,
see,
and
Ken,
mean,
you unmuted yourself. Are you going to be talking to us? Mr. Fine?
Yes,
You unmuted yourself. What's up?
I don't know.
we're so used to you having something to say that it's rare to see. You're a passenger today, Ken. Where are you going?
Well, home.
Well, cool. Are you going to NAB this year?
No,
No. I see you there a lot. I told somebody, I said the best part about NAB is the departure lounge in McCarran. And not NAB specifically, just Vegas and the Strip. And after 2 weeks of it, it's time to get out of it. But yeah, so going home is not a bad thing there either.
it's gotten so expensive. And last year I saw pretty much not everything, but most of the new stuff. And I don't know. I kind of like the TAB now that I'm out of New Mexico.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
and I'm trying to save money, and we're doing a lot of our walking trips. So I'm kind of
Mhm.
blowing it off this year. And this is one of the first times I've done that. So.
But that brings up a really, really good point. I mean, with what the OAB has done in Columbus with their fall show, with what Michigan or Wisconsin has done for years in Madison, TAB in Texas, LAB in New Orleans, Alabama in Birmingham, and I mean, I know there are several others. I've seen Mark in Nebraska more than once, and I think I may end up there again this year. So all over the states and Canada, there are regional shows that can bring you to a lot of the same people. I mean, you're not going to get as much glitz glamour, and you're not going to have like a South Hall full of AI and drones. But when it comes to talking to the folks that you need to talk to actually make things work, we do a lot of those regional shows too. And it's a lot less stress for everybody, I guarantee you.
And the TAB is really a good one. I was in New Mexico for 10 years, and that thing, there was maybe 15 people in the and 2 distributors in the engineering section. And I basically went because they paid for it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and exactly right. I mean, these days, like TAB, last time I was there was bigger. Well, last time I was there was last year, but it's to the point. It and Ohio both are. I would guess both of them are at least the size of the radio show in the last days of the radio show. You know, probably even bigger than that. David asked, "Is there a reasonable way to get to the strip from the airport?" Um, no. Yeah, well, Uber works best. Elaine mentioned that. There are a couple of shuttle bus services to the strip that work, and they're about a quarter of the price. You're at the mercy of their schedule, and if you got a lot of luggage, it's a pain in the rear. You can still get a taxi. It'll be 60 odd bucks, and they'll ask you whether you want to go on the highway or take the strip. So that depends. But yeah, Uber or Lyft, both. I use Lyft more than Uber just because that's the app that I'm used to. But those are good options if you're not renting a car.
Well, the airport is right there, basically at the base of the strip.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's the other thing about Las Vegas. A block in Las Vegas is about a half a mile. It's not just like a couple of steps. So yeah, from the airport to the actual main part of the strip, it's not well, I could walk it, but it would take a couple hours. I wouldn't walk it dragging a suitcase.
No, you wouldn't want to do that. Some hotels do have shuttles, and as you said,
Mm-hmm.
there are some that are generic shuttles that are out there. It's but everything in Vegas is a lot more expensive than it used to be.
Oh, it has gotten absolutely nuts. I mean, some of the restaurants we used to go to on a regular basis, it's like we look at them and I can't justify this level of expense anymore.
Mary and I were
There,
talking about going across the street from the West Hall to the Marriott, and
hmm
we discovered that the coffee shop there, the sandwiches were what, 22 to $27.
Yeah, well, the rooms there for Vegas week were pushing 300 and something a night. So that's in line. Now the cool thing is if you do have a rental car or you've got an Uber account or a Lyft account and don't mind using it, it's not too hard to get off strip. I mean, Barry, you and I have spent some time in that little Italian place in North Vegas, and I mean, if you don't mind the risk of getting shot at, it's some of the best Italian food you'll ever find. There's a barbecue place. Shoot, I've got their bumper sticker on my truck, Roll and Smoke out in the industrial park. That is really, really good. So yeah, there are still some good cost-effective options out there, but it has definitely gotten more expensive.
The hotel buffets are not cheap anymore, which, well, it's been analyzed, and basically what it is that the bean counters have now determined that every facet of the hotel has to make its own profit.
Yeah.
The rooms, the hotel, the restaurants, everything else.
Yeah. Now
And a
that
lot of
is,
the buffets got stopped because of COVID.
yeah, and just didn't come back. There are still a few. The Back and All buffet at Caesars is still Caesars. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's where it is. Is still
Mhm.
there. There's some. Yeah, that's. I think somebody sent me an invite to something there at one point. But there are a few. They're just not as many, and the prices have definitely gone up. Partly because of the food handling costs, partly because of labor, partly because everything's gotten more expensive. Um, One other thing that had come to mind, and this you made me think of it because I was thinking, yeah, you don't see the rooms comped as much, but if you get the Players Club card for whatever hotel you want to stay at, you can get in, even if you don't gamble a lot. Sometimes just having the card will get you a discount rate or some comp meals at various hotel facilities for different casinos. And I mean, who was it? I think Elaine had mentioned way early in doing Airbnb to avoid the cigarette smoke. And like for me, we typically, Wilson and I will be at the Tuscany for a couple of days because the Tuscany, the rooms are in a compound totally separate from the casino. So you don't have to walk through the smoke filled casino to get to your room at night. So again, a lot of it's just figuring out what you like and what you want to do and a whole lot of planning.
Yep. Planning, 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 planning.
And communication.
That's it.
And drink a lot of water. Yeah, well, because that's the thing that really surprised me is I don't sweat in Vegas, and so you're not sweating, you don't think about it
You do sweat, it just evaporates.
before it even appears. It just like the moisture just literally gets sucked out of your body. And I mean, I've spent enough time working in deserts over the years to know that. But if you're coming there from an area like here where for us to go below 50% humidity is really rare, that change in humidity can make a huge impact. So I mean, I carry moisturizer. I drink probably close to a gallon of water a day. And I mean, we in our booth will have cases of water smuggled in and stocked. Yeah, and hand lotion too, right? Because hand lotion, chapstick, I mean, basically anything that can crack will crack. And it doesn't help that when you're inside, everything's air conditioned, so that humidity level gets even lower.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know, maybe they add humidity, but it is brutally dry for sure.
Well, you could always go down to Death Valley. Mr. Wilson, anything you'd like to add?
Unmute yourself. There you go.
Yeah, no, I think Mr. Welton's covered it all. Looking forward to seeing everybody who's going to make Vegas next week or in the coming weeks. And yeah, just take care of your shoes, drink lots of water.
Now, I understand that you and Jeff have now divided the nation in half.
That's correct.
Yeah, you want to not tell, just ask Jeff. That's going to be our new slogan.
Jeff W.
Yeah.
So those of you that are going, now you know.
Now, and we made the agreement early on. I got to be Big Jeff because I'm both a little bit taller and a little bit older. So maybe I'd be old Jeff and he could be young Jeff. But yeah, it's we've split everything down the Mississippi, so it's just easier that way. And yep, we're going to have to take out Jeff at Nautel for our email address and just make it communal.
I would like to say for a post NAB wrap up, I'd like to challenge the group to see who can find the most interesting piece of swag at the NAB. As I look through my top desk drawer, I found one of my favorites from years past, which was the slide rule from ERI, which I thought was a very good one. So I don't think they do that one anymore, but let's see if we can find some cool stuff there.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean, I kind of make that a challenge every year, but no, I think that's a really good idea for two reasons. Number one, I bring this stuff back with me and show it to our marketing guys, and someday you may see it with a Nautel logo on it. But it is cool to see what's out there. I mean, where did I acquire this? RCS, I picked up this cool little screwdriver set, and it's got like the screwdriver bits with a decent handle, but it's also got a tape measure in it. And I never checked. Oh, look, the tape measure is even bilingual. It speaks English and American. So, you know, that and a flashlight and all the other cool stuff. But again, just what kind of cool swag is out there? I've got a Bonneville 4-port USB hub powering half of my desk right now, you know, among other things. Jampro one year had the coolest for anybody that likes Post-it notes. They used to have the Post-it note pads with all the little strips in the various sizes. So, no, swag is a good idea. I'd never thought of that. Thanks, Jeff.
Well, all these are good things. And ideally, once you get there and you head back to McCarran for the trip home or get back into your car, you'll have information, you'll have some swag, you'll have some new friendships maybe,